Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do a tag video, one of my own creation. Not done one of those since I think 2020 when I first started my channel. But basically a few months ago my friend Nat sent me a photo of different people who had arranged a clock made out of their books. For each hour there was a different book, with the caveat being that the book had to include that number of the hour in its title. I quickly had a look on YouTube to see if anybody else had created a tag similar to this or had done a book clock for themselves. And though there is a book clock tag, it's basically about numbers and time in relation to your reading. It isn't this concept. And so I thought it would be quite fun to basically go 1 to 12, picking my favourite books that happen to have that number in them. And I thought I'd make it a tag just in case anybody else thought it would be fun to do as well, because I'm sure we'll all have different answers for this. Caveats for this tag being that they have to be books that you have either read or you own yourself. Ordinal numbers are fine. So if for number 5 you wanted to use something like The Fifth Element or something like that, that would count. What doesn't count in my mind is if the number that you are using for this particular hour is part of another number already in the title. So for example, 10,000 doesn't work for the number 10. 4321 by Paul Auster wouldn't work for 4, 3, 2 or 1, but otherwise free reign. Very simple premise, so let's just get straight into these books. So my pick for the number 1 spot would be One More Croissant for the Road by Felicity Cloake, which is part travel, part food memoir of Felicity Cloake cycling around France, sampling as many classic and obscure French dishes as she can and trying to find the perfect one over the course of a month, which sees her cycling an average of around about 30-40 kilometers per day, taking in all the many sights and all of the different great food. And then she also will put recipes interspersed through the book of her perfect version of that dish. My pick for the number 2 would be Two Houses, Two Kingdoms by Katherine Hanley, which is a medieval history non-fiction looking at the kingdoms of France and England and their relationship over 1100 to 1300, though it does cover the events preceding 1100, notably William the Conqueror journeying over from Normandy to England to take the English throne. And through this book she's really showing the ups and downs, the turbulent relationship between the kingdoms of France and England, but mainly showing that it wasn't always an antagonistic relationship, but very much dependent on the personalities of the kings. My pick for the number 3 is unfortunately not a favourite of mine, and I will definitely welcome any recommendations for the number 3 that you have. But for this, it is Three Things About Elsie by Joanna. This is one that I read, I think, in 2018. We are following the main character, who is an elderly lady living in sheltered accommodation. Her best friend is Elsie. This is who she shares all of her secrets with, and her suspicions about a new tenant in their building. But there is definitely the sense that this protagonist potentially may have dementia, and therefore we don't know how far we should trust everything that she's saying, all of her memories. I remember this being a big favourite of a lot of people when it first came out, but unfortunately didn't do very much for me. Though I ended up keeping my copy of this for quite a while just because of the Battenberg on the cover. It's very enticing to me. My pick for the number 4 is The Sign of Fall by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Once again, another one that is not quite my favourite book. Definitely not my favourite of the Sherlock Holmes stories, but one that I did reread fairly recently, which sees Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson trying to track down a missing father when the only clues available to them are an anonymous letter and a string of pearls. My pick for the number 5 is 5 Straight Lines, A History of Music by Andrew Gant, which is this chunky book, basically going through the history of music from 40,000 years BC all the way up to present day, the origins of music. It is quite deep into music theory, so if you're not that familiar with it, that could bog you down a little bit, but I really enjoyed this one. There is quite a lot of focus on classical music, which you might expect. I would probably go to another book if you were wanting to dig more into 20th century, but this was a really fun whistle-stop tour through the history of music. Then my pick for our number 6, halfway through, is Katherine Parr, The Sixth Wife by Alison Weir, which is the 6th and final book in her 6 Tudor Queens series. Katherine Parr is one of Henry VIII's wives who I have a little bit of a tricky relationship with. I really do admire her, though I do have some criticisms for some of her tenure as queen, and especially after she was queen, the way that she conducted herself with Thomas Seymour, and especially in regards to Thomas Seymour and his inappropriate relationship with Elizabeth, though I don't deny that she had some pretty amazing smart moments too. So it's one where I get why people like her, I like her, but I do have criticisms. My pick for the number 7 is one that I imagine a few people might have, which is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was also quite tempted by Daisy Jones and the Six, but I do prefer this book. I mean, Daisy Jones and the Six Politics is a fantastic book, but this is just a little bit more up my alley, which sees journalist Monique being commissioned by this world-renowned actress of the golden age, Evelyn Hugo, to write her memoirs. Evelyn Hugo's life and career, and particularly her personal life, is kind of an amalgamation of a lot of famous Hollywood actresses. A lot of nods are particularly to Elizabeth Taylor, particularly her multiple marriages. Through this story we are uncovering her true personality, her thoughts and her feelings, and particularly which was it of her 7 husbands did she love the most, or was her truest love outside of marriage. My pick for the number 8 is Fox 8 by George Saunders, which is a little novella looking at an anthropomorphized fox who has learnt to speak human, writing a letter to the humans, basically asking, can you be a little bit kinder to the world and our environment, because he has noticed how cruel and how thoughtless humans can be, which is leading to destruction of the planet and particularly death of him and his friends. This reminded me a lot of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It's an odd little book, but a very intriguing one. My pick for hour number 9 is 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake by Sarah McLean, which is a very fun Regency romance in which our main character, Calpurnia, or Callie as she is known, is a wallflower in her late 20s who has been pretty much written off as a spinster by her family. Efforts are being put more towards her younger sister getting married, and she is left reeling and very frustrated with the limitations on her life due to her single status and being a woman. And so she writes a list of 9 different things that she would want to do if she were a man and had the same freedoms of a man. And after one pretty horrible night with her family, decides that she is going to take it upon herself to complete some of these tasks, and along the way draws the attention of the nefarious Duke of Ralston, who decides that, you know, simply for the sake of propriety, he should definitely help her with some of these challenges. And I'm sure you know what happens next. Romance does bloom. My pick for book number 10 had to be this one. It had to be my most reread book from when I was a teenager, which is the final book in the Princess Diaries series, The Princess Diaries 10 out of 10. I know it has a different title in the US, but this is the UK. This is what I'm picking. What was the final book in the original Princess Diaries series, seeing Princess Mia graduating, trying to pick what college she is going to go to, because she's very concerned that colleges may only be accepting her because of her name and her status, rather than because of her grades and academics. It's almost 2 years on from the previous book in the series, which saw a lot of her core relationships breaking down. This book also sees an election in Genovia, which will definitely disrupt the country, as well as of course romantic tension, as Mia is pulled between 2 competing love interests, but which one is right for her. For our 11 o'clock number, I had to pick Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which is one that I read about a year after it first came out, but I know got very popular over 2020, and with the new TV series, which I still haven't seen. Let me know if that's any good. But it's kind of a post-apocalyptic novel where we are seeing the aftermath of an illness that swept across the world. We are seeing what is left of humanity, how people are still trying to hold on to aspects of society and humanity. The main selling point of this for me had been the fact that we are following, at least in part of the narrative, a Shakespeare troupe who travel around to different settlements performing Shakespeare, trying to keep that alive. Definitely one that I would be interested in reading now, having actually gone through a global pandemic, because while obviously the results of said pandemic were not as absolutely devastating as you might see in a dystopian post-apocalyptic novel, I think I would still definitely have a different perspective now than I did in 2015. And then the final hour, of course, for book number 12, we're taking it back to Shakespeare with Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's famous comedy, which sees Viola cross-dressing as her brother Sebastian, following a terrible storm that is shipwrecked to them, falling for the Duke Orsino, but the Duke is in love with Olivia, but then Olivia is starting to fall for the disguised Viola as Sebastian. And how much of this am I actually getting from the play itself, and how much am I just remembering from She's the Man? Who can say? I will never tell. I have read Twelfth Night, but She's the Man is more prominent in my brain. This is definitely a Shakespeare play that I need to come back to. I have seen it performed the one time, but it was about 5 years ago. And like I say, my main reference point for this is She's the Man. I make no apologies for that. It's a very fun film. So there we go. That is my little bookish clock. Now, if I were actually in possession of all my bookcases, if I were back at my parents' home, I would have actually made the book clock for you. But unfortunately, I am in Oxford. I live in shared accommodation. What you see around me, this room, is the extent of my space. So unfortunately, at least in this space, I do not possess all of the books that I have spoken to you about today. They are in my possession, just not here. But if any of you actually want to make the book clock for yourself, I would definitely recommend it. That seems like very good fun. And yeah, just a silly little idea for a book tag, but one that I hope is fun and that maybe some people might want to do as well. Do let me know if any books that you would have included in this video. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.